Hi, it's time for Street Talk, your voice and your views on the issues in the news. For the first time in its history, the International Criminal Court in The Hague is investigating widespread sexual crimes in the Central African Republic. A prosecutor at the ICC, Luis Moreno Ocampo, announced that his team will be looking into war crimes that occurred in that country between 2002 and 2003 after an attempted coup by the current president, Francois Bozize. Hundreds of victims have already come forward with testimony on how they were raped in front of their families and communities. The case was initially brought to the CAR Supreme Court, but it was unable to handle the large number of victims, and the case was then referred to the ICC. Let's see what you had to say. Carl in Mexico doesn't think The Hague can handle the workload. I don't think that crimes of sexual abuse will take up most of the ICC's agenda in the near future. There is no doubt that policies like systematic rape and sexual abuse should be qualified as crimes against humanity. The only pity is that the ICC should have a wider jurisdiction. Jerry in California in the United States says this is a common occurrence. This sad and horrific reality of conflict is probably already a more highly encountered event than that of the killing of enemy soldiers. The victims are defenseless and probably often kill themselves. Alan in New York thinks these crimes will become easier to prosecute. I feel that this type of prosecution will become more commonplace. The world is changing. The internet, cell phones, cameras, etc. are putting atrocities and despicable behavior on the forefront. The world will no longer tolerate these criminals. This, of course, is a good thing. Heading east to China, where the one-child-only policy has resulted in violence as villagers in the southern part of the country take to the streets to protest the government's heavy fines for having more than one child. Witnesses are claiming that more than 10,000 people began setting cars on fire and hurling stones at police officers who were there to collect fines of more than $1,300 from families who'd broken the country's strict rule. Family planning work teams began going from house to house collecting money and in some cases confiscating valuables. The Chinese government put the policy in place in the 1970s in an attempt to control its population, which is the largest in the world at 1.3 billion people. John in the United States has mixed feelings about this. I don't especially like government interference in family planning, but overcrowding in certain parts of the world does lead to a lower standard of living and increased use of non-renewable resources, so population limits may in fact be better for the Earth. Charles in England thinks China's policy should become a worldwide phenomenon. Happiness in children is quality, not quantity. This policy must be extended to South America, which also suffers the devastation of overpopulation. Lawrence in the United States thinks this rule is on its way out. I can't see this policy lasting much longer. As China opens its doors to the world, the Chinese people will begin to want to take more control of their lives. On to something else that's trying to stay small, a television that's just been built in Japan. In this case, bigger isn't better. Seeing as the TV is so small, it can fit on the edge of reading glasses. The monitor's called Teleglass T3F is the latest version of an ultra-small television monitor developed by a Japanese optical firm and are only 2 centimeters in size and weigh about 35 grams. When wearing the glasses, it would look like a 28-inch screen TV set located 2 meters away from you. The purpose of the glasses are to enable commuters to watch programs on their way to and from work while still taking in the scenery around them. The company that invented them claims it's the smallest television in the world. Now, gymnasts are known to be extremely flexible and strong, but these athletes really set the bar high. Let's take a look. Looks painful. Don't try that at home. That's it. Until next time, do keep sending in your questions and comments and point us to anything interesting or amusing for Street Talk. Remember, what you see here isn't necessarily the view of Al Jazeera. Some of the content has been edited, but for time and space reasons only. And that's the talk on the street.